Most performance problems are first interpreted as people problems. A deadline is missed, and the first assumption is that someone did not care enough. A team moves slowly, and the first assumption is that they lack urgency. Accountability weakens, and the first assumption is that people need to take more ownership. Execution becomes inconsistent, and the first assumption is that the team needs more discipline. Sometimes those assumptions are true. People do make mistakes. People do avoid responsibility. People do miss commitments. People do lose focus. But when the same performance problem keeps returning, leaders should slow down before they blame the people, because repeated performance problems are often system problems. That is one of the core ideas behind the durable performance system. Performance is structural. It is shaped by the conditions people work inside every day. The incentives, the authority structure, the information flow, the accountability rhythm, the consequences that are enforced, avoided, or applied inconsistently. When those conditions are misaligned, the system begins producing the very behavior leaders are frustrated by. That matters because misdiagnosis creates the wrong solution. If a leader sees a structural problem and treats it like a motivation problem, the solution will usually be pressure. More urgency, more reminders, more meetings, more escalation, more frustration. But pressure does not automatically fix a broken system. In many cases, pressure only makes the system more exhausted. It may create a temporary burst of activity. It may get a project across the line. It may force people to work around the problem for a while. But if the underlying structure does not change, the same issue will come back. This is why many organizations feel like they are solving the same problems repeatedly. The meeting ends with agreement. The issue returns. The leader clarifies the priority. The team still gets overloaded. The standard is restated. The behavior continues. The deadline is escalated. The delay happens again. At that point, the question should not only be who failed. The better question is, what condition keeps reproducing this problem? That is the difference between blaming a symptom and diagnosing a system. A people problem is usually isolated. A system problem repeats. A people problem may be tied to one person's behavior. A system problem shows up across multiple people, multiple teams, or multiple situations. A people problem may improve with direct feedback. A system problem tends to survive feedback because the structure still rewards, protects, or permits the behavior. This does not mean leaders should avoid accountability. It means accountability should be aimed at the right level. If one person fails to meet a clear standard, that needs to be addressed. But if many capable people keep struggling with the same issue, a leader needs to examine the design of the system. The system teaches people how to behave. It teaches them through what gets rewarded. It teaches them through what gets ignored. It teaches them through who gets promoted. It teaches them through what gets escalated. It teaches them through what gets protected. It teaches them through what carries consequence. And it teaches them through what does not. People adapt to the system around them. If speed is praised, but quality is not protected, people learn to move fast even when it creates rework. If collaboration is praised, but individual heroics are promoted, people learn that visible output matters more than system health. If bad news is punished, people learn to soften updates. If decisions are constantly second-guessed, people learn to wait for approval. If commitments are made but never followed up, people learn that accountability is optional. None of those behaviors require bad people. They require a system that teaches the wrong lesson. That is why the durable performance system looks beneath the surface. It asks leaders to examine 5 forces: incentives, authority, information flow, accountability, consequence. Each one shapes performance. Start with incentives. Organizations often think their incentives are clear because they have stated goals, values, and performance expectations. But the real incentive system is not what the organization says. The real incentive system is what the organization rewards. If a company says trust matters, but protects people who damage trust because their numbers are strong, the system has created an incentive. If a leader says quality matters, but only praises speed, the system has created an incentive. If people who hide problems are treated more favorably than people who raise problems early, the system has created an incentive. So when performance problems repeat, leaders should ask, what are we rewarding? What are we protecting? What behavior is advancing? What behavior are we claiming to dislike while still allowing it to win? The second force is authority. Many execution problems are authority problems. Teams are told to move fast, but decision rights are unclear. People are responsible for outcomes, but they cannot make the decisions required to produce those outcomes. Managers are expected to deliver results, but approvals sit above them. Employees are told to own the work, but the system does not let them act. That creates delay. It creates escalation. It creates rework. It creates defensive behavior. It creates meetings that exist only because nobody is sure who has the authority to decide. When leaders see slow execution, they should not only ask whether people are moving fast enough, they should ask, who actually has authority to decide? Where are approvals slowing the work? Where are people responsible for outcomes they cannot control? Where does the work wait because decision rights are unclear? The third force is information flow. Leaders cannot correct what they cannot see, but in many organizations, information gets distorted before it reaches the people who need it. Bad news gets softened. Risks get delayed. Updates become polished. Reports show activity instead of truth. Dashboards look clean while the real work is struggling underneath. This is how leaders lose the signal before they lose the performance. By the time the problem becomes obvious, the system may have been drifting for months. So when performance problems appear late, leaders should ask, where was the signal lost? Why did we not see this earlier? Did people feel safe raising the problem? Were we measuring the right thing? Did our reporting create clarity, or did it create noise? The fourth force is accountability. Accountability is often treated like a character trait. Leaders say, people need to be more accountable. But accountability is not created by saying the word more often. Accountability has to be designed. People need clear expectations, clear ownership, clear timelines, clear decision rights, clear follow-up, and clear standards. Without that structure, accountability becomes vague. Everyone agrees in the meeting, but no one owns the outcome. A deadline is discussed, but not protected. A commitment is made, but never revisited. A priority is announced, but 5 other priorities compete with it. Then, when execution weakens, leaders ask for accountability. But the better question is, was accountability actually designed? Did everyone know who owned the outcome? Was the standard clear? Was follow-up built into the operating rhythm? Did the person responsible have the authority and capacity to deliver? Accountability is not a speech. The fifth force is consequence. Consequence is where standards become real. Most organizations have standards. The question is whether those standards carry weight. A standard without consequence is a preference. A rule that applies only to some people is not a standard. a value that gets ignored when a high performer violates it, is not an operating principle. The real standard is what happens after the standard is violated. If the behavior continues with no consequence, the organization has taught people that the behavior is acceptable. If the consequence depends on status, the organization has taught people that status matters more than standard. If leaders avoid enforcing the standard because enforcement is uncomfortable, the system begins to drift. That does not mean every mistake should be punished. It does not mean leaders should create fear. It means standards must be protected consistently enough to be believed. When consequence is inconsistent, performance problems keep returning because the system has no reason to change. Together, these 5 forces explain why performance problems are usually system problems. A missed deadline may be about one person, but repeated missed deadlines may be about overloaded priorities, unclear authority, weak follow-up, or incentives that reward starting more work instead of finishing important work. A slow decision may be about hesitation, but repeated slow decisions may be about approval drag, unclear decision rights, or a culture where people are punished for making the wrong call. Weak accountability may be about avoidance, but repeated weak accountability may be about vague ownership, inconsistent follow-up, and standards that do not carry consequence. Poor communication may be about carelessness, but repeated poor communication may be about information flow that rewards polish over truth. Leaders have to learn to read these patterns because the pattern is the signal. When a problem repeats, it is usually telling you something about the system, and that creates a different kind of leadership response. Instead of only asking, "Who caused this?" ask, "What allowed this to keep happening?" Instead of only asking, "Why didn't they move faster?" ask, "Where did the system slow the work down?" Instead of only asking, "Why aren't people accountable?" ask, "Have we designed accountability clearly enough to be real?" Instead of only asking, "Why did no one tell me?" ask, "What happens in this system when people bring bad news early?" Instead of only asking, "Why is this behavior still happening?" ask, "What consequence has the system taught people to expect?" That is the shift from pressure to diagnosis, from blame to structure, from temporary correction to durable performance. This does not remove responsibility from people. It places responsibility where it belongs. People are responsible for their choices. Leaders are responsible for the conditions that shape those choices. And organizations are responsible for the systems they allow to continue. That is why performance is structural. If a leader wants stronger execution, the answer is not always more effort. Sometimes the answer is clearer authority, cleaner information, better incentives, stronger accountability, more consistent consequence, less structural drag. The durable performance system exists to help leaders see those forces clearly. Because once you can see the system, you can stop fighting the same symptoms over and over. You can begin redesigning the conditions that produce performance. If this way of thinking is useful, visit curtisstoaks.com. The books, essays, and tools there go deeper into organizational drift, structural drag, accountability, incentives, authority, information flow, consequence, and durable performance. Start with the drift diagnostic if you want to examine where recurring performance problems may be forming inside your organization. And subscribe to this channel for more videos on how leaders build performance that lasts, because performance problems are not always people problems. Very often, they are system problems. And durable performance begins when leaders learn to manage the system that produces the result.